The coast is clear. Hurry! We can make it out of the dome! Liam screamed. Go without me. I can't do this anymore. Huey couldn't bear the pain of the injury he had on his chest as he fell to the ground. Huey! No! Get up! Huey exhaled deeply and breathed his last. His eyes flickered to an eternal sleep. Huey! Please! Don't do this to me! Wake up! Flames were licking up the air, with the wind trying to catch something else on fire, and finding nothing but air. Its job was done. No building was left standing. The dome burned to the ground. Man fears what he cannot conquer. I see one here! Voices from a distance could be heard. Liam raced for the gate with all he had. Freeze! A voice from far away commanded. Suddenly, every joint and muscle that enabled Liam to run stopped. He didn't want to stop, but his body was subject to the command given. It's down! Get it! The soldiers said as they rushed to retain Liam. Liam stood there, numb, and as the soldiers pinned him down, his eyes met with Huey's lifeless body, and the bodies of his people littered all over the place. You guys don't have a place in this world. You are abominations, one of the soldiers said as he pulled Liam and spat on his face. Place the retainers on the ones alive, and remember to take the DNA of those dead, the commander commanded. Chips were inserted into their spines, chips that prevented them from using their power. Sir, Dr. Jason said to tell you he will only be needing 10 of them, a soldier whispered to the commander. The commander's eyes darted across the crowd. Get me 10 of their finest men. Yes, sir. Liam was selected with 9 other men. What do we do with the rest, sir? One of the soldiers questioned. Get rid of them, the commander ordered as he walked out of the dome. One of the soldiers took out a gas and sprayed on all who weren't chosen by the commander. Those who were alive barely screamed for help. Light their heads up, one of the soldiers said with a smile. As the van drove off with Liam and the others, those who were left behind all laid on the floor helpless and burning. Parents clung to their children. Some squeezed their eyes as the only way they could cry for help was with their tears. The soldiers made their way out of the dome into their vans as the dome exploded. On hearing the sound of the explosion, Liam squeezed his eyes also, for he had just lost all he could call family. He didn't even get the chance to bury them. A tragic day it really was. One filled with scars that would never be forgotten. Pohill, Spider Lab. Thank you. A man walked on stage as everyone applauded. First of all, it's an honor to have every one of you here this day. The applause faded out as he began to speak. I'm sure everyone here saw the news to begin with. The Imaginates have gone from being a threat to us humans and are now a danger to their own kind. Luckily for them, our soldiers made it there to stop the violence, but they couldn't stop the explosion of the dome. But the good news is that we caught those who did this treacherous act. The crowd applauded, but those times will soon be over. I don't know about you, but I'm tired of the Imaginates seeing us humans as inferior rather than superior. We all know what they did to us on Mars. Still, we accepted them, and they repay that kindness by attacking us and killing our people with their powers. But I tell you, ladies and gentlemen, Project Corinthian is here to change that. The whole crowd stood up to applaud loudly. With Corinthian, we no longer fear being inferior to them, because he will protect us from them. Forever. And, ladies and gentlemen, lastly, before I go off the stage, as I said earlier, we retained those Imaginates that attacked and killed their own people. Despite our differences, we reached out to help them, and we will punish those Imaginates for what they have done. Remember, Spider Lab has always been after the betterment of humanity. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I give you Corinthian. He bowed his head and walked off the stage as the crowd roared with applause. The lights went off and came back on as a strange man appeared on the stage. Silence swept across the crowd as they tried to comprehend who he was.
Corinthian. I'm a Corinthian,
He said in a robotic tone. He stretched out his hand as all the water molecules from the corners of the room floated and created an ice cube large enough to fit 7 people in it. In amazement, the crowd applauded him with a standing ovation.
Thank you.
Corinthian said as he waved. I told you he wasn't complete, but you pushed for him to come out. A man whispered to another man behind the stage. Dr. Jason, look at them. Don't they love it? They're so dumb to notice he's incomplete, the man answered as he smiled. Mr. Stephen, I know, but we need to get him completed before something happens. You asked for 10 Imaginates to complete him. We got them here. Don't piss me off. You will complete him after the convention, Stephen said furiously as he smiled and left. But I need more time, Jason said as Stephen walked out. Jason exhaled heavily, then moved closer to the stage where Corinthian stood staring at him.
Why are you staring at me, Doctor?
A duplicate of Corinthian interfered. Jason, shocked, lost his balance a little, causing his glasses to fall to the ground. Jesus, Corinthian, how many times have I told you not to sneak up on me with your duplicate?
I'm sorry, Doctor. You look disturbed. Is anything the issue?
No, Jason said as he wore his glasses.
Remember, one of my specialties is knowing when someone lies about something. And you are lying, Doctor.
Jason stared at him and smiled. Corinthian, I will see you later in the lab, Jason said, walking out. The duplicate walked onto the stage and fused together with Corinthian. The crowd went wild as Corinthian turned and walked off the stage. Liam opened his eyes to survey the box he was placed in. He tried to force himself up, but an electric shock from the cuffs he was given kept him back down. His eyes met with one of the scientists in the lab. Where are we? Release us now, he commanded. Your powers are useless in here. You Imaginates are more foolish than I thought, she said, moving along to survey the others. Pipes were placed on them. They extracted something from their system which they didn't know about, but it made them feel weak. Jason walked into the laboratory. Welcome, Dr. Jason. We have extracted the FTH from their systems. All of them seem to have no traces of powers, except him, she pointed to Liam. Interesting, Jason said, then started towards the box where Liam was placed. What happens if you extract the FTH from his system? His system recovers it back immediately, she replied. And what is his ability, Dr. Sarah? Jason questioned, staring at Liam as if he were a specimen. Not sure. We haven't spotted anything that is known. What are you? Jason said thoughtfully to Liam. Get me out of here, and I will show you, Liam threatened. You have gotten the FTH from the rest, am I correct, Dr. Sarah? Yes, sir. Then get rid of them. I think we've gotten the real deal here, he said, looking at Liam. But for the meantime, Run more tests on him. Okay, sir. Jason exited the lab. Mr. Steven, Jason called out. Steven, on noticing him, excused himself from the midst of his guests to give Jason an ear. What is wrong, Jason? Why are you screaming? He whispered. I'm sorry, but we got it. The final masterpiece to complete Corinthian. What do you mean? One of the Imaginates we caught. He shows a unique FDH flow in him. He's different from the others.
What are you guys talking about?
Corinthian appeared. Christ, Corinthian, what is wrong with you? Stop sneaking up on me, Jason panicked. Lower your voice, Jason. He is just showing his power. It's good for the media, so play along, Steven said as the paparazzi flashed their cameras and stormed them with photos. Corinthian wasn't comfortable with the flashes. They caused him to twitch.
Stop! Stop! Stop!
He yelled, causing the cameras to explode. An awkward silence swept through the room. Steven could see how tense the woman by the bar was already. This was bad market. Steven looked around as he applauded slowly. Bravo, Corinthian! Bravo! Everyone was confused as to why he applauded. Ladies and gentlemen, this proves that Corinthian is not just a robot, but a human also. He was programmed after our late beloved Raymond Fisher, who, as we all know, had a phobia for flashes before he sacrificed himself for us. The crowd was moved, that they applauded the words of Steven. Thank you, everyone, he smiled. Take Corinthian to my office now, he whispered to Jason. Jason walked Corinthian to Steven's office. What was wrong with you, Corinthian? Jason asked, already angry at how everything was going.
I'm sorry. I couldn't control it.
What did I tell you to do when you feel tensed?
Bite my tongue and exhale,
Corinthian replied. Steven stepped in. Corinthian, do you want people to hurt me? Steven questioned.
No, sir.
If you keep doing things like that, bad people might just try to use it against me and hurt me, and you don't want that, right? Corinthian fell to his knees, pleading.
I'm sorry, Master. It won't happen again.
Yes, Corinthian, it won't, Steven smiled. From now on, you will be locked in your pod till every bit of your programming is completed. Now, Corinthian, go back into your pod now, Steven commanded. Immediately, Corinthian walked out of the office and headed to the lab. I told you giving it emotions will make it weak, Jason, but you didn't listen. Jason was about to speak when Steven cut in. Now listen to me. I don't care what he is going to turn out to be, but I want every single emotion out of his programming. Okay, sir, that will take some time. Do I look like I care? You have 48 hours. Make it work. Leave my office. And one more thing, Jason. Never interrupt me when I'm talking again. Jason shut the door behind him and exhaled deeply. Inside, Steven's phone rang. It was a strange number. Who the hell is this? He said under his breath, staring at the screen. Hello? He answered. I know the truth about everything. I have video proof of what really happened in Mars, and I will release it to the press. Who are you? Steven questioned. The muscles in his body became tense. The person who is going to ruin your life. If you don't release the set of Imaginates you are holding captive right now. I don't know what you're... Stephen Mark, you have 2 hours, the strange caller said just before the line went dead. Stephen couldn't take the phone off his ears. It was rare to see him shocked. Adar, search and ID this caller now, he panicked. Searching, the AI replied. Stephen couldn't sit down anymore, and so he walked to and fro his office as if the corners of the room would offer him answers. I'm sorry, sir, This caller couldn't be identified. Adar replied. "You have to be shitting me," he said under his breath. "Sir, I'm picking up signals of distress from your body. I suggest you lie down a little and stop stressing about it," Adar said. "You have no idea of what this means, Adar. If that person truly has the video proof of what happened in Mars, the whole Spider Lab is doomed. Humanity is doomed." Stephen fell back into the arms of his chair. "I understand, sir. I will run more searches on the caller and trace them." "Thank you, Adar." "You're welcome, sir." Hilltop Town, West Side. A boy was standing by a blue can beside a coffee shop when suddenly he dropped his case on the floor, opened it, and brought out a black violin made with mahogany wood that had a name inscribed on it. He cleaned the violin, then picked up his bow and positioned it by the left side of his neck. As he struck the violin strings with his bow, people from all around drew closer to him. While playing, he squeezed his eyes shut, and everyone who listened felt a distressing emotion leave them. Whether it was anger or sadness, they all felt peace as they listened to him play. While he played on, dark clouds gathered, and it began to drizzle. Still, no one could break free from the bound of the tunes he played. "Boy!" A man tapped him. Immediately he opened his eyes. Everyone started heading for shelter from the rain. The euphoria had ended quite abruptly. "Thank you, sir." "I will ask you again, why are your tunes different? And are you a magician?" The man smiled as he spoke. "No, Mr. Bobby," he laughed. "But don't stop playing here, though. You attract customers to my coffee shop." "I won't, Mr. Bobby. I'll be heading home now before my mum gets worried." "Won't you grab a cup of coffee before heading home?" "On the house, as always." "Well, thank you so much, Mr. Bobby. You're so nice." He packed his violin as they rushed into the shop before the rain could drench them any further. "Cappuccino special, right? The regular?" the man asked as he went behind the counter. "Yes, sir," he said, taking a seat in front of the counter. He dropped his violin on the counter. "Son, I've been wanting to ask, what is your name?" "Hank." He smiled while the rain fell heavier. "Oops, don't tell me you'll be going home under this devilish rain." "No, sir." "Oh, thank goodness. So, where did you stay before you moved here?" Hank stared at him for a while. "Can I use the bathroom?" "Yes, sure," Bobby said with a smile. Hank walked into the bathroom, splashed his face, and stared at himself in the mirror fiercely. He walked out of the bathroom and noticed his violin was gone. "No! No! No!" he shrieked. Bobby, who was in the kitchen, rushed out in haste, alarmed also. He spotted Hank searching frantically for his piece of beauty. "What's wrong, young fellow?" "My violin! It's gone!" Bobby walked into the kitchen and brought the case out. "I didn't want it missing, so I kept it for you." Hank stared at him for a while, then snatched the case from his hands. "Please, sir, never touch my stuff again," Hank said, running out of the shop and into the thunderstorm. "I'm so sorry, young man," Bobby yelled, sincerely apologetic. Hank headed for a bar close by, then took off his hat and coat. He sat on a stool, dropping his violin next to him. He then exhaled and held it tight with his eyes shut. The world would be a better place without Imaginates. One of those abominations killed my parents and took over my estate," a man argued from behind him. "I'm grateful for what Mr. Stephen of Spider Lab has done. Now they know who's boss," another voice screamed as they laughed. "I can't believe those fucks slaughtered all our astronauts that went to Mars with them, and then tried to frame it on us," they continued. "If I catch any of those pieces of shit, I'm sawing them asunder. I can't wait for Project Corinthian to be launched fully. We can finally get rid of all of them." The thunderclouds had died down as Hank headed out of the bar. Mum, I'm home, Hank said, locking the door behind him and proceeding to take off his coat and drop his violin case. The silence was unusual as Hank walked slowly into the room. Mum, you scared me. I told you I won't speak to you whenever you come home late, she replied. I'm so sorry, the rain held me back. Hope you didn't play your violin outside. Hank turned his face, shying away from the question. Hank, I told you not to do that. You know what happens when you play. Don't you think someone will know you're an Imaginate? She whispered. I'm sorry, Mum. Hank sat by her side and cupped her hands in his. Promise me you won't play in public again, she coughed. I promise. Have you taken your meds? Yes. Mum, won't you just let me play the violin for you so you can get healed? Hank, I've been sick for 7 years. Don't you think it will raise suspicions that you're an Imaginate? Then let's leave. We can go to the Imagine Tower where other Imaginates will welcome us. Have you forgotten that I'm not an Imaginate? You know how much hate they have for humans? She pulled Hank's hand. You are very special. That's why they're scared of you. Hank smiled as he gave her a peck on her head and left the room. Imagine Tower. How long have we hidden and let the humans treat us like dogs? They have slaughtered us and blamed it on us. But I say it's over, isn't it? The crowd screamed in agreement to the words of the speaker. They have prepared Project Corinthian to get rid of us, and we have FK-76 to get rid of them for us as well. They will pay for what they did in the Imagine Dome. FK-76 will make them pay. A pod with a man inside was brought to the open as the crowd applauded and screamed in joy. This is the future. FK-76 is the future. Our future, the man said, and walked to the pod. Poe Hill, Spider Lab. Incoming report, sir. It seems like the Imaginates happen to have FK-76 and are prepping to release it, Adar said. Stephen jolted up from his bed. No, 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 no! Stephen screamed as he smacked his face. Adar, call me all my scientists, now! On that, sir. Stephen reached the conference room where all his scientists awaited his arrival. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. FK-76 was just spotted in the Imagine Tower. But that's impossible. I thought we destroyed it on Mars together with their people, a lady said from the crowd. There's no time to waste. If they want war, we will give it to them. I need Corinthian to be prepared before sundown today. I don't care if you have to wipe out a whole village to get him done, Stephen said. But sir, even if we manage to get Corinthian complete, we still don't stand a chance against FK-76, another scientist said. It possesses ultra-imagination. That means whatever it imagines comes to life. So, it can imagine our death, and it happens immediately, Jason said. The crowd murmured to themselves. Quiet! Stephen screamed. What can be done to stop it? Stephen was restless. Nothing, sir. You can only make your ways right with the Imaginates and plead with them not to release FK-76 or patiently wait for our death to crawl up on us, Jason replied. I will never stoop that low to apologize to those abominations. You guys heard my words. I want Corinthian ready before sundown, Stephen said, and walked out of the conference room. His phone buzzed in his pockets. He picked to check the caller, and it was the strange caller who had called earlier. Stephen, you had your chance, but you missed it. Don't say I didn't warn you, the caller said, and the line went dead. Stephen rushed into his office. Adar, have you identified the caller? I'm so sorry, sir. I haven't. But, sir, I think you should see this. Adar pulled up a video to the large TV screen. The truth was out there, in plain sight for all to see. The truth about what really happened on Mars. Adar, how many people have seen this video? 7 million people and still counting. I don't care if you have to hack the server of the channel that posted it, but find me who sent the video to them. Stephen walked to his lab. Mr. Stephen, we have a problem, Jason said the moment he entered. What is it? Corinthian isn't responding to the FTH we are feeding him. Are you saying he needs something more? Yes, sir. Then do whatever you have to do to keep him up. Didn't you say you captured an Imaginate who is different? Yes, sir. Our captive produces antimatter, Jason said in a low tone. Then what are you waiting for? Take out every bit of FTH in his system, giving him that power, and feed it to Corinthian, Stephen commanded. Activate hyper extraction on patient 87, Jason said as he started for Liam. It's working, sir. Jason smiled. Hilltop Town, South Side. I just released the video. Stephen has always been a stubborn prick, a deep voice said. So, what do we do now? Another voice said. We find a way to stop the Imaginates from releasing FK-76. We're all doomed if we don't. It's nice everyone thinks I'm dead, but it's high time I reached out to Hank and my wife. Raymond! Someone called. Who's that? He picked up his rifle as he went to the door. Jojo, how many times do I have to tell you to stop screaming my name like that? Raymond wasn't in the best of moods when he opened the door. Sorry, but the whole west side is in chaos. I think someone leaked a video of what really happened on Mars. Everyone is fleeing from here. The Imaginates are heading for the Imagine Towers in large numbers and killing anyone who stands in their way, Jojo kept saying. We shouldn't have released the video this quick, Nicholas said behind Raymond. We have to get moving. You and the others head to the Imagine Towers while I go look for Hank and Sarah, Raymond said as he grabbed his bag and rushed out. Fire raged on almost all the buildings in the west side area of the hilltop town as Raymond searched for Hank and Sarah. Raymond raced for the Imagine Towers. He suspected Hank would be there. Enough is enough! Enough of the lies and the slavery we have been dragged into by humans! Hector, the leader of the Imaginates, screamed. Raymond squeezed through the multitude of Imaginates as he wished to see either his crew or his family. He searched desperately, wondering what his boy would look like and how he would react when he sees him. It's time for FK-76! The crowd screamed in joy. Hector walked towards the pod and stretched forward to open it. Raymond screamed. Wait! Please don't do this, he pleaded. Hector, in shock, shifted away from the pod. What are you doing here? You're meant to be dead, Hector said. People, everyone here knows me as Raymond Fisher, the soldier who headed Project Omega. I also released the video of what really happened on Mars. If you have seen the video, you will see that humans were the ones who attacked Imaginates and killed every single one of them to claim the Omega Stone for themselves. My crew and I refused to attack the Imaginates who accompanied us for that mission, but under the order of Stephen Mark, founder of Spider Lab, we were ordered to be left behind on Mars to die. But we survived, because I am an Imaginate, and I have been hiding it for years. The crowd murmured in amazement to the words of Raymond. They lied to the world that we were heroes who sacrificed ourselves for the world so they could use the Omega Stone to create Corinthian to get rid of us for good. We hear your words, Raymond, but we have no time to hear it further. Hector wasn't letting his urge for wrath slide. They wanted war when they slaughtered us at the Dome. We will give them war. Please, I beg of you, FK-76 is not going to be a harm to just the humans, but to us, Raymond pleaded. Hector stretched his hands to open the pod, ignoring Raymond's pleas for reason. What are you doing, Fisher? Are you working for them? Hector screamed. I'm sorry, I can't let you do this. Without warning, Raymond blasted blue energy bolts at Hector. The others in shock raged at Raymond. Raymond inhaled all the air he could get as he summoned an electric force field to protect him and the pod for some time. "Since you won't open the force field, then we will do away with your wife and your son," one said as he held up a knife to Hank's throat. "Dad, I thought you were dead," Hank said as he struggled to free himself. Raymond was cut to the heart with emotions and had no choice but to drop the force field. Quickly, the Imaginates grabbed him and restrained him with his family. "Fisher, you owe me a whole lot of explanation when we're gone here." Sarah couldn't believe her eyes. Raymond Fisher, Hilltop Town's hero and Earth's decorated captain, was alive. Hector recovered from the shock and opened the pod. The gases that helped preserve FK-76 blew out, and water followed in its wake. There was an eerie silence. Then, a man stepped out. An 8-foot-tall man. His eyes were full of scales as he stared around. FK-76 gazed at Hector, and suddenly blood spewed from his mouth. It had just imagined the death of Hector. A lady screamed in the crowd and everyone fled. One by one, the Imaginates exploded like pumpkins. Raymond and his family were hindered from running because of the restrainers placed on them. FK-76 walked gently towards them as they tried to break free from the restrainers. In that moment, a powerful laser beam struck FK-76, knocking him to the ground. "Liam, Huey Ramirez's younger brother?" Raymond questioned, unsure.
No, I'm Corinthian. My consciousness was transferred into this body.
"Oh no! Corinthian, you can't fight FK-76! Please back down!" Raymond pleaded as he broke free from the retainers.
I'm not fighting it. I will kill it.
FK-76 rose up and raced towards Corinthian. He imagined that Corinthian was powerless, and immediately he lost his power and fell to the ground, helpless. Raymond was making his way towards Corinthian when FK-76 picked him up by the hair. "Humans, so fragile, so pathetic," FK-76 said. Hank broke his restrainers, reached for his violin case, positioned it, and started playing. "Hank, no! Please stop! He'll kill you!" Sarah pleaded. Hank looked at her one last time and squeezed his eyes shut. "I love you," were his last words. As his bow struck the strings, everything within his reach froze. FK-76 struggled to get to him, but the notes of the strings held him back even from imagining. As Hank switched notes, everyone around him that was injured got healed. But he grew weak because the more he played, the more it drained him of energy. And so he fell to the ground, exhausted. "No more Imaginates," FK-76 uttered with a cry. Suddenly, every Imaginate got stripped of their power. And as he flew towards Hank, who lay almost lifeless, soldiers from the Spider Lab raided the tower that moment and trained their gun at FK-76. Stephen came out of one of the vans with the Omega Stone. The Omega Stone hindered FK-76 from imagining anything to reality that will harm him. FK-76 flew into the sky. "You idiot! You shouldn't have brought the stone here. You just showed him what he needs to destroy," Raymond said to Stephen as he rushed to pick Hank. "You betrayer! You and your crew will pay for this!" Stephen threatened. Before the soldiers could even think of moving an inch, the floor opened up to swallow them one by one. The ground began to quake as buildings sank into the belly of the earth. Raymond raced towards Stephen after confirming Hank's pulse and freeing his wife. He knew fully well that the stone was the only way to stop FK-76. As Stephen tried to run, the ground opened up and swallowed him. crushing him to pieces midway and letting his upper body splatter blood erratically. FK-76 hovered around, surveying what he had caused. The stone fell into the hands of Raymond. He knew this was his last chance to save his family. He raced towards FK-76 with every strength one could muster. As the floor broke off with every step he took, he sprung up towards FK-76, catching him unawares as he pierced the stone right through FK-76's brain. Your emotions made you weak. FK-76 grabbed Raymond by the arm and muttered his last words before the stone could shut him down. Everyone and everything burns. In that moment, a raging fire engulfed everyone and everything on the earth, burning all that existed to a crisp. It was the end of everything. Nothing remained. No one survived.
Hey Creepypasta fans, it's Thomas. Thanks for listening. To connect with and support us, make sure to check out our Discord and Patreon links in the description. And remember, stay cosmic.